Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into an essential component of tenancy agreement, the option to renew clause. Whether you are a landlord or a tenant, understanding this clause can save you a lot of headaches. So let's break it down. An option to renew clause is a common feature in tenancy agreements. This clause gives the tenant the right to extend the lease for an additional term, usually under the same terms and conditions, except for the rent, which is usually subject to renegotiation. This clause provides security for tenants who want to stay longer and for landlords who want to ensure continuous occupancy. But it must be clearly defined in the contract to avoid disputes. From a legal standpoint, the option to renew clause must be clearly worded to be enforceable. Here are some key points to consider. Number one, the notice period. The clause should specify how much notice the tenant must give before the end of the current tenancy term in order to exercise the option to renew clause. For example, the clause can say that if the tenant wishes to renew the tenancy, he should give no less than 3 months notice before expiry of the tenancy agreement. The second important point to look out for are the conditions for the renewal. These are the conditions that have to be met or fulfilled in order for the renewal to be valid, okay? Such conditions could include the fact that the tenant has been paying his rent timely, on time, and has complied with all the covenants and all the conditions of the tenancy agreement. The third important point to note is the rental review mechanism. Usually, the rental for the renewal term will be different. It could be up, it could be down. The clause should state how the new rent will be determined or calculated. For example, the rental renewal clause could state that the new rent shall be at the landlord's sole and absolute discretion. You should ideally avoid having such a clause because you are at the mercy of the landlord. If the landlord decides to double or triple your rent, it is at his sole and absolute discretion, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you don't want to pay triple the rent, then you just have to leave the premises. Alternatively, a common clause would be that the new rental will be mutually agreed between the landlord and the tenant. But the problem then arises, what happens if the landlord and the tenant cannot agree on the new rent? If they cannot agree on the new rent, then there is no renewal and the tenant also has to leave the premises. One way to avoid this problem is to have a pendulum clause which swings up and down. So an example of a pendulum clause could state something like, if the rental market is on an upswing, then the rent shall increase by no more than 10%. If the rental market is on a downswing, then the rental shall be reduced by no more than 10%. In other words, there's a maximum and a minimum amount of increase that the landlord can impose. Now let's look at the commercial considerations for both landlords and tenants. For tenants, an option to renew offers stability and allows for long-term planning. You can avoid the hassle of moving out of the premises and the costs associated with moving out, such as reinstating the property, getting movers to move your stuff out and move into new premises. However, make sure that the terms of the renewal are clear and fair, especially the rent adjustment terms. For landlords, offering an option to renew can make your property more attractive to potential tenants. It also ensures that you have a steady rental income for a longer period. However, be mindful of market conditions when setting the renewal rent to avoid underpricing your property. Therefore, when negotiating an option to renew clause, both parties should ideally consider engaging a property lawyer to ensure that the clause is fair and legally binding. Let me give you an example to illustrate the importance of an option to renew clause. Imagine that you've built a successful restaurant over the past 3 years. The option to renew gives you peace of mind, knowing that you won't have to relocate and lose your regular customers. For the landlord, having you as a reliable tenant who is willing to renew the tenancy means less time and money spent finding new tenants and possibly renovating the property for a new tenant and then losing income during the period that the premises remain empty. Not to mention the usual practice of giving the new tenant a rent-free period of 1 month to renovate the premises. To conclude, an option to renew clause can be a win-win for both parties if properly negotiated and clearly drafted. Always consider the legal and commercial implications before agreeing to such terms. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, share it with others who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more legal insights. Thanks for watching.